Mr. President, the Republican frontrunner today outlined his plan to pay for the wall on the border, which includes barring undocumented immigrants in the U.S. from sending money back home. What would be the real implication of this plan, and are his foreign policy proposals already doing damage to U.S. relations abroad?
The answer to the latter question is yes. I think that I've been very clear earlier that I am getting questions constantly from foreign leaders about some of the wackier suggestions that are being made. I do have to emphasize that it's not just Mr. Trump's proposals. I mean, you're also hearing concerns about Mr. Cruz's proposals, which in some ways are just as draconian when it comes to immigration, for example. The implications with respect to ending remittances, many of which, by the way, are from legal immigrants and from individuals who are sending money back to their families, are enormous. First of all, they're impractical. We just talked about the difficulties of trying to enforce huge outflows of capital. The notion that we're going to track every Western Union bit of money that's being sent to Mexico, good luck with that. Then we've got the issue of the implications for the Mexican economy, which in turn, if it's collapsing, actually sends more immigrants north because they can't find jobs back in Mexico. But this is just one more example of something that is not thought through and is primarily put forward for political consumption. And as I've tried to emphasize throughout, we've got serious problems here. We've got big issues around the world. People expect the President of the United States and the elected officials in this country to treat these problems seriously, to put forward policies that have been examined, analyzed, are effective, where unintended consequences are taken into account. They don't expect half-baked notions coming out of the White House. We can't afford that.
It is self-explanatory. The wall is a fraction of the kind of money in many different ways that Mexico takes in from the United States. The wall is a fraction. You're talking about a $10 billion wall. You're talking about a trade deficit with Mexico of $58 billion, and probably going to get worse if they run it. If I run it, there won't be a trade deficit. So one of the ways, and I just issued that, and I guess the Washington Post picked it up, and they picked it up, I think, fairly accurately.
Yes, you've been hearing for months now, from critics of Donald Trump saying, well, how are you going to force Mexico to pay for this wall on the U.S.-Mexican border? Well, today the Trump campaign is outlining its plan. What it's saying is that it is essentially going to threaten Mexico that if it does not pay the $8 to $10 billion that is estimated to pay for the wall on the Mexican border, the U.S. government would essentially halt remittances, money transfers, essentially wiring money from Mexican citizens who are living in the United States, people who might be here illegally, stopping those people from wiring money to their relatives in Mexico. The Trump campaign estimates that would total somewhere in the neighborhood of $24 billion. The Trump campaign is saying that is essentially an economic lifeline to Mexico, and so if Mexico does not pay for the cost of that wall, essentially that money is going to stop. Now, obviously, the Mexican government has not had a chance to respond to all of this, but there are other proposals in there that I assume will raise eyebrows down in Mexico City. There's another proposal in there, Carol, that says that the U.S. government would essentially crack down on visas from tourists, from business travelers, and so forth coming from Mexico into the United States if Mexico does not pay for this wall on the U.S. border.